Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Bull. So, a very interesting episode. We have Bull kind of dealing with a patent case. We have this girl, lady, I don't know if I feel wrong kind of referring to her as a girl because she's a full-grown woman, a lady named Carrie, who basically created medicine to help her sister because her sister has a condition. And basically, she made it, and she saved her sister's life, and everyone was kind of giving her praise for it. But instead of kind of selling it, she wanted to kind of give it for free to kind of take it worldwide. But the people who feel like there's a guy who says like, no, I own the patent to that. Me and my company, we own the patent to that. And so it turns into a whole situation that basically the whole case ends up taking, Bull and his team to Callisto, Texas, a particular town in Texas that deals heavily with patent cases, and they tend to lean more towards the person that's kind of saying like, no, they kind of tend to lean one way. It's never kind of like a flip back and forth, like, who they might side with. It's like, no, more often than not, they side with one particular party. Usually kind of in favor of the person being like, no, this patent's mine. They kind of tend to lean that way. But this particular town has significance for Bull because we interestingly learned that this is actually one of the few times Bull has ever lost. I mean, probably the only time Bull has ever lost has been in this town. And what I find is so fascinating about this episode is this particular town, because Bull starts off being like, we're going up against Callisto. This is dangerous. They're kind of like, okay, you're tripping out about a town. He's like, this is not just a town. Like, the moment we land in there, the entire town will be against us. The odds are against us. Everything's going to be stacked against us. It's basically because everything kind of went wrong the moment they landed in town. Chuck ended up losing some of his baggage. They ended up losing the reservations that they had for the hotel rooms. And then, even Chuck was like, okay, you know what? I'm never going to doubt you again. When you say a town is kind of quote unquote evil, then I'll give you that benefit of the doubt. I think they even kind of jokingly refer to it as kind of like the sixth circle of hell or something like that. And it's just like when you look at an episode, you're like, man, everything is literally stacked against them. They even try to do their normal thing because one of my favorite aspects of this show is a whole mock trial thing where they, to get information, they bring in a fake jury. Juries that kind of co-in-line with the members, other people that kind of like take in. They have similar backgrounds, even kind of look similar to the jury members, and it's like, we use them as a test to kind of see what works and what doesn't work with the jury, kind of hence the mock aspect and everything, which I really like. But the fact of the matter is they couldn't do it this episode because the moment that they're bringing in the mock jury and everything, to kind of sit in the back of the courtroom, kind of take in the case. The judge is like, no, what? You ain't got nothing to do with the case. Get out. It's already hot enough in here. You're just going to make it hotter. So they kind of screwed them over in that department. Then there's the whole situation, they had that whole lengthy process about choosing jury members, kind of like, because you have all taken down to a science. And then you had the judge being like, there's a tornado warning because the siren goes off. And he's like, you know what? You, and you. Yeah, I know you guys. You're good enough. You're good enough for the jury. Even telling that guy, Jerry, he's like, don't worry, Jerry, I'll you'll be done soon enough that you'll go back to fishing and whatnot. So it was like, wow, kind of screwed him over in that department. It's just like everything was against them, especially because the reason why the person they end up going up against was her name's Diana Lindsay. She's a partner in the firm that's representing the guy that's trying to say like, oh no, we have the patent to this. Played by the lovely Jill Scott, who played Jill. Wasn't her character's name Jill too from Royal Pains, which reminds me at some point I'm gonna have to go back and finish that. The last season I watched was maybe season 5. There was like seven or 8, weren't there? I missed a lot of the final parts on there, and I'm going off book. All I'm saying is I have to go back and watch the series. I really like it. It's just because I don't really watch that many medical dramas, but once again, I'm just off point. Nevertheless, it was kind of cool seeing her in this episode, especially having kind of putting on a bit of a Texan accent. I really like that. But and since we're talking about accents, I love the fact is that Danny was undercover. They're kind of like, oh, aren't we waiting for Danny? And Bull's like, nah, she's on special assignment. They show up there, go to a particular restaurant place, and they see her. She's working there as a waitress, and got on an accent and everything, and it's just like, wow. Even have Benny commenting, being like, wow, she should keep that accent a little bit longer or something like that. So it was weird seeing her like that. It's actually her first time. I mean, she was part of the FBI, so I'm sure like undercover work was kind of something she did from time to time. Because you get a little, like, we still don't get a clear picture of how everyone ended up being a part of the team. Obviously, Bull kind of explained later on his reasons for choosing everybody. I mean, I'll talk about that a little more later on, but it's like, how did Bull get his hands on a former FBI agent? Like, I mean, just curious. Like, was it something like he helped them all out of in particular situations, and that led to them being a part of this team? Like, are we going to get like an episode where it shows you how Bull got to each member of his team? Nevertheless, just overall a very interesting episode where like literally just things just didn't work out in their favor. They even had that point where Diana kind of gets Bull a little drunk because she kind of caught him off guard, because she's the reason why he lost the last time he was in Callisto. Because she was that was basically, it was a case over farm equipment, and she ended up kicking his ass. Essentially, originally he had the jury on his side because, you know, he is the way he is, kind of gets inside people's heads. But he had them on his side. The weekend passed, and then Monday, when it was time for the trial again, they'd all switched over to her side, and she ended up winning the case. And it kind of never really, he was never really able to find out how that happened. It's like they were all, you know, on his side, and then the next moment he turns around, they're all flipped and on Diana's side. I mean, we end up finding out that basically, you know, because apparently they had a bit of a relationship. I'll get to that in a second. But essentially what she did was, basically he stayed back home, like stayed, you know, indoors and kind of watched TV while she went to church. A lot of people in that jury happened to be at church, so she ended up not necessarily talking to them because that would be jury tampering, but what she ended up doing was singing, and just because she knows her hometown, like she knows the people there, she knows the town well, so it's kind of like she just sang. She kind of, I guess in a sense you can look at it kind of like she was kind of went all siren on them and kind of swept them up with her voice and be like, oh man, Diana's such a good girl, you know, it's like, how can we not be on her side with this whole situation? So that kind of flipped their mentality. But when it came to them in their particular relationship, kind of tying back into that, it seems like the way she makes it seem, she's like, Bull hasn't come back. It's like, you know, it's like, oh, you're helping out Carrie. So it's like, all it takes is a wounded woman to kind of get you to come back to town. He's like, well, the fact is, you know, you're always staying here. You know, why don't you ever leave? You know, which, you know, whether it was 100% a serious thing or not, I mean, I don't know. I mean, whether, you know, maybe it seems like it might have been a little bit more than just kind of like, hey, just keeping this casual. It seemed like there might have been something there. Interestingly enough, Benny actually points out, he's like, you know, this whole Callisto thing, like back in the day, happened like a little bit before you started dating my sister. Kind of alluding to like, you know, kind of wondering, was my sister kind of a rebound because you were just kind of down in the dumps and you just kind of found the first person? Like I said, like, Benny doesn't really talk about that really much. I mean, it's like, it makes you wonder what went down to kind of make Bull and Benny's sister, you know, split from one another. And why is it that Benny's so cool with Bull? Because it's like, I don't know, I feel like that's such a weird thing, like hanging out with your ex-brother-in-law, even working with him. But I guess, you know, Benny's able to put that stuff aside. I guess because Bull was always good to him and good to his sister, so he has no problems with him. And I'm completely denouncing, like, the star of this episode being Merle. Everybody loves Merle. It's just, I love everyone's kind of shocked. It's like, oh yeah, like he's hiding us out here on his farm. He even had some of our stuff shipped over. Like, they had some of their equipment and stuff shipped over under his name so that no one would mess with it, which was pretty smart. But he ended up kind of taking over kind of the lawyer aspect of this episode. It wasn't Benny this time. And he did a pretty bang up job. I really like, because basically the argument ended up becoming like, oh, the fact of the matter is Carrie did know this guy. Basically, her sister was part of an experiment he was using to kind of test his drug originally, but it failed. And basically, they didn't do anything with it for the next 17 years. But Carrie decided to do something about it because she wanted to save her sister's life. So basically, she took what they already had there and she basically combined the two elements. It's like they had the two pieces of it right there, but they never thought of combining it a certain way that she did. It ended up giving her the result that she ended up using to kind of save her sister. And the thing was, it was kind of like, no matter what, like basically, I forgot what the actual law term for it was that Bull uses. Basically like obvious. It's basically meaning like, even if the combination was something that someone could easily have come to that conclusion, then it kind of goes, it would be in that guy's right to be like, no, I own the patent to it. Even though you created something technically new by combining, you still combine two components of something I already had. That's one thing. But the fact of the matter is, if it was being able to be shown that it's like, oh, like someone could have easily, obviously come to that conclusion, then she kind of lose in that regard. So that was very fascinating. But I liked Merle's kind of comparison. He's like, well, the fact of the matter is, bringing a toaster and a clock together. It's like there was no issue with the person who ended up making that, kind of putting a clock to a toaster or whatever. Is kind of using as an example, being like, was it the person who made the toaster? Was it the person who made a clock? No, it was a different person, a third party. So you can't really use that as an example. Like, Did they get in trouble for doing what they did? No, there was no patent issue there. So what's the issue here? And even later on, they used the example of strudel, because it's like, you know, because basically the thing was, they couldn't use big words because a lot of people on the jury didn't really have a big background in science. And it's like, yeah, Carrie's a very smart woman. She could explain it to you like in heavy detail what's going on, but you wouldn't be able to understand it because there's a lot of big scientific terms. And basically, they had to find a way to, in their words, it's like, find a way for the, an 8-year-old to understand it, kind of break it down like that. And basically, they did. I like the fact this bidding was able to convince like 8-year-olds, being like, okay, these people are starving. So the person took an apple and water and made apple juice, but the people were still starving. So someone else kind of ended up making strudel. So it's like, yeah, you still use the same components and everything, but it was combined in a different way, kind of representing like, hey, he only cared about the money aspect of it, because that's why he never combined the components, because it would have been a costly situation, So it kind of trying to show that like, hey, cares more about cost than saving people's lives. That's kind of the argument we're trying to make. I mean, and like I said, bringing back like the fact is that things were stacked against them. I mean, I kind of cut out the fact is that they kind of got Merle kind of drunk because they knew like shots were kind of his weakness. Like I said, got Bull drunk, even took his pants. They even took some of their files, but that was kind of all part of Bull's plan, because he was like, hey, make them think we're going to bring up all these experts to kind of battle against him. Even like wrote stuff down in his quote unquote notebook that he was keeping notes for, but it was all just a ploy. I even like the fact that he got Cable to kind of fake like a tornado, and I was like, nice, because she kind of stayed out of the background, like she kind of stayed back at home HQ, because he was like, he needed her there. And I love the fact that she kept dragging up those pictures of Bull back in the day, one with a stash, and then one kind of almost like mutton chops on his face, and then even one like kind of that picture you see at the end of the episode. It's weird seeing him like that, because I've never really seen Michael Weatherly with a lot of facial hair. I'm sure that was just obviously probably like a fake mustache they put on, but still, nevertheless, it was weird, because anytime he was as DiNozzo, like I don't ever, like, he was always clean shaven as DiNozzo, so it's kind of weird. I mean, you see him like having a little facial hair as Bull, but it was weird. But amazingly enough, everything did kind of work out in the end. Basically, during the fake tornado and everything, they ended up, Carrie ended up talking to the dude, kind of explaining what happened. Like, the way he actually talked about it, it didn't seem like it was just kind of like a fake thing. It did seem like he was sincere. He's like, I do care about your sister. It's not like just a money thing, He's tried asking her, like, how did it go down? And they were she broke it down and explained it to him, but they were kind of in a place where, like, everyone could, because they were down and below in, like, a bunker or whatever, preparing for the tornado and whatnot. And some of the jury, the people who could understand it, kind of were like, oh, man, I totally get it now, because she was able to break it down and explain it in science, kind of overheard the conversation. That's kind of the whole point. And what Bull was kind of thinking was, with the jury having that in mind, then they'd have an easier time kind of swing. And it's like, okay, now that they understand it, now it can be easy. Like, the main thing was to get the people who would understand the science to understand it, because everyone else, everything was a little dumbed down for them. They had, they were kind of already on side. It was just these particular people who needed to hear the science aspect to kind of see whether she really knew what she was talking about. And she did. But interestingly enough, the guy had a change of heart. He was like, I'm dropping this whole suit. And it's like, she's like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. because he had to change her heart, because it wasn't, as you can see, it wasn't necessarily 100% about the money. I mean, I'm sure, but just talking to Carrie, seeing like how passionate she was about that, it was all about her sister, and knowing that what good it could do. I think he just had to change her heart, which wasn't exactly what Bull was kind of expecting. He was kind of expecting it to be left up to the jury, but I guess you just can't 100% account for the human heart. Like, it's a very mysterious thing that I feel like even with science, you can't really calculate what it's very incalculable. If Kingdom Hearts has taught me anything, I know I'm going off book here, but Kingdom Hearts has taught me anything, that the heart is incalculable and is very unpredictable. Just anything can happen when it comes to the heart. So that was just kind of interesting. But the final note I want to kind of go out on is the fact of the matter is that Bull talks about the fact is that things for him changed after Callisto. It's not just, with Benny's sister. She wasn't just kind of a rebound. He, before that, only really cared about winning. That was his first loss, and that loss taught him a lesson, something that he'd forgotten. For him, it was all about, just making money. But that loss taught him, like, no, it's about the people. It's not about making money. It's about being there for people, kind of investing in people, believing in people. And that's why he got with Benny's sister. That's why he formed this team to get a whole bunch of people together, because in this world, you can't fight any fight alone. You need a bunch of people behind you to support you, because you can't fight the world on your own. And that's why this whole team exists. And that's even why he met up with Benny's sister, because of that, because you have to find people that you trust, and he found a lot of people that he can trust. That's why he formed this team. So that it was kind of sweet to hear him talk like that. And like I said, I brought it up earlier, like, we don't know the individual reasons as to why everyone came together, but we do see that that's the main ultimate goal as to why Bull does what he does, why they're in the situation they're in. And just overall, just a very good episode, and I can't wait to see where we go next week. If there is an episode next week, I didn't check, so next time, we'll just leave it at that. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.